Welcome to Co-Branded, your go-to source for brand strategy, design, and business insights.
Whether you're just starting out or leveling up, we're here to help you build your brand with confidence.
Let's dive in. Zuza.
Hey, Josh. How's it going?
It's going good. So today we're going to talk a little bit about AI.
Hi.
Yeah. So AI in creative work and in business and, personal life, AI is pretty much everywhere these days. And it's interesting because it's only really been about a year and a half where ChatGPT came out, last November, two Novembers ago.
It seems like it's been years.
It has. They always say like exponential growth in technology, and it just, every 7 years it halves in terms of the timelines or whatever it is. Yeah, AI is interesting. It's amazing. It's slightly terrifying for different people. I think the creative industry has gone through a little bit of a upheaval with the ability of all these new different tools. I'm a big proponent of AI, but I also understand and have had to kind of come to terms with a lot of the implications that AI has. I don't know if you've seen any of the new robotics stuff that's coming out, but they're like building human android kind of things now, which is...
That doesn't seem very new though, right? Like
it's not necessarily new, but I guess with the integration of AI, it's just, the Skynet Terminator, like it's just where are we going kind of thing. But we're not really talking about androids and Terminators. We're talking about what AI means to creatives and business. And, there's a lot of things that I think AI allows in a powerful way. Allows us to move much faster as creatives. It allows us efficiency in maybe more production-minded tasks, but also in some really kind of conceptual creative tasks as well. But in my mind, the further we get into it, output is going to become a commodity to where the actual end result, this icon, this photo, this layout is going to become more and more not less important. Anybody is going to be able to do that part with these different tools that are coming out. But creatives and even business owners have this level of knowledge and strategy and understanding to say that is good or that is bad. I don't think AI has reached that point to be, this is going to attach to the audience. This is going to be strategically sound. This is going to, this is on brand. This is on tone. I think a lot of that still needs that human interaction to be able to do those things well. For now, sure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who knows what's going to happen in the future? It's accelerating very fast.
Yeah.
And we can't dictate that. There's nothing we can do to change the course. AI is here. There's billions, if not trillions of dollars being invested in AI.
It's here to stay.
It's here to stay. And, I think last year, even I was like, ooh, man, am I going to have a job in another year? Maybe not in another 5 years. I don't know. Like, who knows what's going to happen? But I think right now, AI really allows talented individuals to become superheroes. Someone that maybe isn't that good at their job, depending on what their job may be, that might mean displacement or might mean they need to change focus or just become super proficient in the tools that they use in their job to make them efficient. But yeah, it's a big deal. It's changing a lot every day.
Great. Mic drop. Thank you very much, everyone.
Podcast.
And we're done.
Yeah.
Well, it's one thing I wanted to say about the conceptual work. I completely disagree, at least for now. In my experience, when working on brand identities, especially logos, anything that's highly conceptual, the concept comes from the connotations, the associations that you make in the memories, symbols. It's a meaning, right? Yeah. It's not just the tangible, visible thing. And AI, for now at least, is incapable of creating those. So for example, if you type in create a logo for this company and you actually input the brand strategy, mission, vision, values, for example, target audience and everything else, it will be super generic. The concept is only limited to combining two different things. If I want to use AI to create concepts, I would have to input something like so for example, I don't know, it's a company that does succulents, right? They sell succulents and they are from, I don't know, Arizona. So I would have to specifically look for things that, for example, have the same shape that can relate to both. right? But the concept is coming from me still. It's finding the similarities, it's finding the connections that, as of right now, AI cannot do, at least for me.
Yeah, and yes, I agree with what you're saying, and I'll kind of walk back what I was intending by way of saying, like, conceptually, not logos. Like, AI is awful at give me a logo for this business, because all it's really taking is a knowledge of clip art and some different fonts and sticking them together. And do you like this? And I will tell you that there's a lot of businesses out there. There's a lot of potential clients that will be very happy with that.
And that's totally fine.
They're the individuals that went to Craigslist and try to find, a designer for $50 to build me a website. So there's always going to be a client that will adopt the cheapest solution or the most cost-effective solution, maybe not cheap, but those really aren't going to be the clients that designers work with going forward. And probably shouldn't be working with them now anyway, because it's cost sensitive.
Don't do it.
Yeah, they just
don't do it.
Here, I have $50 to make me a thing. I will say that conceptually, I was concerning more like mood boards or stylistic ideas, not actual creative output work. I think it does a better job at like UI UX because it's very technical. It's less conceptual. It's pattern based.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've tried some of these logo generators just because I try all the tools, and they're awful.
They're so shit.
Yeah, it's like asking Clippy in Word to like make me a logo. Like, again, but eventually maybe that'll be different. And, who knows what's going to happen. No. But from what I was saying, conceptually is more like pure conception, not like brainstorming, mood board, art directions. Like in the past, we used to like maybe go through magazines or go online and find these different images or colors or illustration styles that we like and cool. Like we think that all these together can create this feeling that we're going after. AI allows us to be much more targeted in what we're looking for, because most designers that I know anyway already have an idea of what they want to present in their head. And instead of us scouring the internet to present as an idea, we can do that in a much faster way now. But yes, creating a logo with AI, please avoid that. Like,
you don't want to do it.
Yes, they are not good yet.
Well, I've never used AI to create mood boards, not because I'm against it, but just because personally, I love creating something that's a little bit unexpected, right? Like a little bit unique. So for example, combinations, color palettes for brands. There are certain combinations that are predictable. They always work, right? Because of color
theory, sure.
But that's why I like implementing something a little bit different. But what I'm saying is we as humans have certain experiences, right? So like for me, it's designing in the US, but I come from Poland, right? The European associations that I have with a different way of designing, I can translate some of those into designing here, and that's why it's unique. So what I'm saying is I don't think AI can do that just yet. What I do like about AI is, and I do feel bad for copywriters. I think that it really is a struggle because I think a lot of people don't understand the value of hiring a copywriter at this point, and they don't get the difference. But you can actually mimic this writer's voice, right? Like, right, the Free Press, there's Nellie Bowles. I love her. She is hilarious. The way she writes, she's sarcastic, but in like a very friendly way. And it's just like, there are some things that there's no other way to talk about them, right? Than be a little sarcastic and cynical and very, very direct to the point. It's funny because sometimes you start reading someone's article and you're just immersed instantly, right? You don't have to force yourself to pay attention to it. It just sucks you in. So that's her style of writing. And every now and then I'll say, mimic her voice plus mix it with someone else's voice. And it spits out something different, but that would be a little scary for me if I was a copywriter.
I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, maybe I did, but I do think that it's going to make the good people better because they can use it to be more efficient. They can use it to refine and focus on the things that makes them unique and special, and then kind of off-place some of these more mundane, production-minded type of tasks. I use AI every day for a multitude of things, whether it's personal, like, give me a recipe for this. I have these amount of ingredients. Can you please tell me what I can make with it?
But I love that.
Yeah, I'm not going to go hire a personal chef or anything. AI is not replacing anybody in that instance, but it's making my life easier because I can figure something out without having to figure it out, which maybe that's a whole nother level of conversation. But in terms of copywriting, I'm not a copywriter. I think I'm okay at editing. I can come up with some concepts, but I'm generally not a wordsmith. Like it's not my skill set. So my viewpoint of what good copywriting isn't accurate. I have an opinion on it. I know what I like, but that doesn't mean what AI will help me produce is any good, because I don't have the knowledge to say this is good or bad.
To judge it.
It's just, this is what I got and it sounds good to me. I'm going to run with it. That is one of the conundrums with AI, is that let's say a non-creative says, hey, I need this layout, or I need this logo, or I need this image. They may go, great, but it may be absolute shit in the eyes of a designer that's knowledgeable and understands what they're trying to produce with it. So there's this blurry line between what is actually good or bad that I don't know how we're going to navigate just yet. Just because it can produce something doesn't mean that's the right thing to produce. But in the eyes of the person that's producing it, or that's trying to move forward, whether it's a business owner or creative, they're like, this is amazing. Let's move forward. So, I don't know how that is solved at the moment.
I don't know if it will ever get solved.
Many times, let's say 10 years ago, maybe longer than that, where you would get a flyer made in Word with clip art from Word. It's just another tool. There's always going to be someone that says this is good enough, and I'm just
sorry, I just wanted everyone to know that 10
How
years ago. No. The 10 years ago, I actually created stuff in InDesign. Just making sure. Just, you know what I mean?
No. I didn't mean designers. I meant business owners. Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah. InDesign and Quark. Remember Quark?
No, actually, that was sorry.
That was pre.
Yeah.
I go way back. Yeah. I think there are obviously a lot of positives to AI. There's a lot of unknown, maybe negatives, maybe not negatives, but changes that's going to happen. But the truth of the matter is it's not going anywhere. It's only moving faster. It's only being integrated into more things. Even right now, and if you go to Google and search, like let's talk about a practical thing. Mm-hmm. SEO, search engine optimization. Historically, you had to make sure that your website was set up right. You had to make sure the keywords, you had to make sure that all the structure was good, and the URLs and the titles and the meta descriptions, all that kind of stuff. Now, if you go to Google and search, the first thing that comes up is an AI summary of what you're looking for. So even with that small change in Google, it's changing almost the entire industry of what SEO was. And that's billions of dollars. I don't know the scale of what that people charge for that, but it's massive. So now we have to change the way that we build websites to cater to what AI is looking for. So that way those pages can be the source of information instead of page 8. Is anybody ever going to go to the second page on Google anymore when the answer is spoon-fed to you the first result? So it's changing everything, not just creative, not just business, a big implication on the world at large and how we integrate it into our daily lives and business. And it's just changing a lot, everything.
So here's a tough question.
Sure.
As a business owner, why should I pay a designer to create my brand identity and my website if there are so many AI tools out there?
Yeah, I think it comes back to the knowledge and strategy that those professionals bring to the table. In my mind, all AI is going to do in that situation is potentially allow you to move faster, to get to market sooner, to produce maybe more quantity of collateral or advertisements or social media in a much more efficient way. If you're just saying, hey, give me social content for this topic, that's not a topic that's going to resonate with your audience. If you don't know who your customer is, if you don't know the market, if you don't know the strategies behind what's a successful result, it's just nothing. It's just like you went to a big box of stuff and took out these things and said, cool, this is my brand. The results, the outputs are only as good as the strategy you put into it.
I have to agree with you. And then it's also, I've seen a lot of people who technically could do certain things, but they don't want to. You know what I mean? Like, it's just as simple as that. I can figure out how to do this, but I have no interest in doing it. And it's worthwhile for me to pay someone else to do those things for me. So there's definitely value there. But one of the side effects of using AI, and it's true, I cannot imagine sitting right now and thinking about what kind of words to use to say this thing in an email. I will input this, tell this person, then this, be kind, courteous, don't be an asshole. And it spits it out. And of course, I'm going to have to tweak it a little bit. But what I'm saying is it's so easy that it's almost as if, personally, that's my experience. My brain is saying, wait. So you're telling me that I have to think about this? So you're telling me I actually have to put some mental effort in it? No.
Yeah.
So we're getting lazy, and that's it's kind of dangerous. But at the same time, that frees up a lot of time for us to do things that we really want to do that might be more beneficial, even in terms of strategic thinking and thinking in general.
Yeah, it's there's a fine line there, in my opinion, because I agree. We don't want to get stuck in the trap of efficiency. Like not never, because I've done it, but I generally will write out what I'm trying to say in my voice. And then I'll say, this is not just right. Can we improve it? Or does this sound okay? Like I want to sound professional, but direct, or I'm trying to sound fun, but I generally always write out my emails first and then just make sure that there's no big changes that should happen or a better word. But I can't think of maybe a handful of times where I'm just like, just reply to this for me. I don't like that personally, because one of the reasons, and you kind of touched on it, is that I'm taking me out of the equation. If I'm not going to do it, then I can just have somebody else do it, whether that's a new hire or not. One of the things that I'm excited about, but also, it's interesting, is the idea of AI agents.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, instead of me saying, hey, I need you to answer this question or do this one particular task, you can create a series of tasks or a series of things, and AI will just go out and do it and come back. And so it's doing multitude of things. It's almost not thinking for itself, but in a series of ways it can kind of accomplish a lot of results. So for me, a good example is, okay, every day I want you to go on a LinkedIn and find the top 5 posts about branding, follow that account, go to their website, grab their contact information, put it in our spreadsheet, put it in our CRM,
and
email them,
Mm-hmm.
Introduce lofty word. And then at that point, then I would take over the conversation. So the idea is that it's removing the grunt work and the really time intensive stuff.
Yeah, it burns your mental energy for really no reason at this point.
Yeah.
But I was laughing, not because I'm crazy, but I mean that too, but because you said something about inputting something in ChatGPT and saying, is this good?
Yeah.
Well, I went back to Poland to visit my family, and I was talking to my mom, and my mom was like, hey, I noticed that you're talking to this thing, And
my robot friend.
Right. And it's like, what is that? So I told her, and it was an app called PI Assistant. I asked the question, and it's giving me advice and different points of view. She was fascinated with it. She was fascinated. So we installed it on her phone. And then she was like, wait, what can I ask? Like anything you want. She's like, what do you mean? So she found something, and she said, everyone should have a best friend that's AI. They're amazing. They will never judge you. They will be so kind and so understanding. They'll always give you the best advice, and they will say, you know what, you should be good to yourself. You know what I mean? So then her sister is also, I want one too. Yeah. And it's hilarious because I do the same thing. And I'm like, is this any good? And then it's spits out, yes, it's professional and kind. And I'm like,
yeah, that kind of brings me to the point of, when we ask AI something, it's always going to give us an answer. I've never seen a moment like, I don't know, you need to look it up, or I'm not sure. But that answer is through a very, very particular lens. So historically, if you went to Google and said, I want to learn about this thing, you'd get hundreds, if not millions of results that potentially have totally different viewpoints about why or how or when, or even like, let's just say something simple as like how to plumb a sink. That's a very opinionated question. And there's a lot of different answers in terms of the people that understand plumbing better than I do. But if I ask ChatGPT, it's going to be one answer that's skewed through the lens of what that thing is. And while that's fast and amazing, and in that example, probably fine. Like, I don't think you're going to break at your house if you take the ChatGPT's answer, but it almost limits our perspective from all the other different types of solutions that may be out there.
And sometimes I think that's actually a great thing.
Oh, I don't think so.
I personally feel so bombarded with so much information and so many choices. I think about this, like every moment of our day, because we live in this century and this time and place in our, in history, we can do whatever the heck we want. We can go to so many different places. We can travel all over the world. We can choose what we want to watch. There are so many choices. And I'll be honest with you, why on earth would we ever fucking need so many types of cereal? Like, seriously, like, you're hurting people. We don't need that many. We don't.
We're on totally opposite ends of this topic.
But this is the thing, because for some people are so particular that they're like, I want my cereal to be made with this best wheat, and I want to make sure that it has this amount of calories. It's like, I don't give a... I mean, I care about healthiness, but I don't want to waste my time looking at all these options because it doesn't matter to me.
It doesn't matter to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
See, but this is the thing. If someone cares so much, maybe they can get deeper and deeper in the rabbit hole of these things. But I don't want to do plumbing of any kind. And if I ever had to, I want one answer. I don't want to do the research. I don't want to think. I don't care.
Maybe plumbing isn't the best answer because it's a very direct thing. Humanitarian efforts across the globe. Like, there shouldn't be one answer to that.
Sure.
There's multitudes of things that you can do in that scenario.
Give you one answer.
AI will.
Well, how?
Because it's the information that it's not going to say, here are the 8 different things. And again, you can ask it, say, I want 8 different strategies, or I want all these different things. But everything that you're getting from any of these things is skewed through the viewpoint of engineers in San Francisco.
I don't know if I necessarily agree with you.
Okay.
I mean, on one hand, sure, but on the other hand, also, if you want more options, so you say, I want more options. Personally, I think it will give you more than one option and one point of view. However, I'm only talking about ChatGPT because ultimately that's the only thing I use as far as AI is concerned.
All the LLMs are essentially the same thing. There's Claude, Perplexity, the new DeepSeek. Like, they're going to give you slight variances. But you can even ask ChatGPT one question, start a whole new chat, ask the exact same question. It's going to give you a different answer. And I think that's the thing that people need to understand, is it's not this is the right thing.
Sure.
This is the right thing based off of that one moment and circumstance that's coming up. So it's amazing. I'm not poo-pooing on it. It's the fact that I can go and ask it anything and it gives me something. I'm like, oh, cool, that was interesting. So even for this podcast, the way I use AI for this is that we record our podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I will take the exact transcript from our podcast, add
We're
it.
selling all of our secrets right now.
No secrets. This isn't secret. Like, everybody should do this. I'll take the transcript, so it's our language,
mm-hmm.
and then I'll have it help me craft a blog post from that thing, instead of me just going to ChatGPT and saying, create a blog post about brand guidelines, because that has nothing to do with our opinions and our views on it.
Experience.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I've had for a long time this giant list of all these things that I want to quote unquote talk about in terms of branding and design and business ownership, but I don't do it because I'm not a copywriter. I have other things I need to do. It always falls on the wayside. So by doing the podcast, sitting here for an hour and discussing things that we're knowledgeable about, passionate about, interested in, I can then take that, use our exact terminology and language, and I don't know how much this is going to create a good blog post from, but actually create something based on our understanding and knowledge, not just ChatGPT's understanding of it.
I will have to agree with that. But one thing I want to touch on, Perplexity.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I love it because to me, it spits out information in a way that mimics how my brain works. Actually, going back, it's frustrating for me to try to do research about a particular topic. You go to a website and then you dig deeper, then you go back, you look for something else. No, Perplexity spits out all these elements, and they're different elements, right? There's images that are on the same plane. Like, it's a holistic view, and you can kind of go as deep as you want. And it reminds me of a mind map, right? When you see the whole picture and at a basic level, and then you can branch out and go deeper. And it's not going deep, coming back and then going to something else. So what I'm saying is this will be very useful, in my opinion, for both designers and business owners.
Yeah.
If they want to find out about something specific and dive as deep as they want to.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it. Thank you.
Point ended.
Point.
Yeah, a lot of it comes back to the idea of anybody, which is great, can go online, use these tools, create something, ask something, get some level of reply to it. But just because they get a reply that this thing said was right or good or what you should do, doesn't necessarily mean that's the case.
Sure.
In a lot of instances, it's very helpful. But I also think if we use the copywriting as an example, I'm not an expert copywriter. I'm not expert at grammar. There's a lot of things that I'm just not the best at. So when it gives me a reply, my knowledge of, is this a good reply, is limited. From like a business owner saying like, cool, I want a layout for this application. What they get is just a summary of stuff. It doesn't necessarily mean it's the right solution for what they're trying to accomplish. And I think as long as people understand that, then I don't have a problem with people generating stuff with AI, because this is as good as I think it needs to be in this situation. For big businesses or businesses that have really particular business goals, just randomly generating images online and posting on social media doesn't necessarily going to result in the right results.
Okay. So speaking of, I really want to talk about photography and illustration and how AI is affecting all these things as far as designers and specifically photographers and illustrators. Talk to me.
I do think that is a little bit of stealing someone's IP and, skill set. But from a stock photography standpoint, since AI came out, I don't think I've purchased one stock photo. Well, that's not true. Maybe 2 stock photos. It's amazing at creating photography-based imagery. And to this point, it's almost becoming unperceptive that it's fake or real. And I still have a decent eye at it on Instagram. There's accounts that are completely AI generated. They're not real humans. They're like digital influencers that are completely fake. And I don't like it. It's like a mixed bag because I've used it to create imagery. Oh, we need a picture of a skyscraper in a dark night. Like, okay, cool. It takes me, half an hour to get to a point where this is the photo that I want versus a month of aligning, waiting till the evening, creating a production crew, hiring the right photographer. Like that, I think is easily on the flip side of this is really amazing. And it's really kind of shitty for the professional photographers that this was their livelihood before. So yeah, I don't have a definitive answer on that. It's amazing and allows you to do a lot, but it certainly is going to change the way that professional photographers work.
I'll have to, well, I'm also torn because on one hand, I think, oh my gosh, great. There is this app called Primed Mind. But the thing about it is that every single image in that app, it's like a bunch of, you could say kind of like self-hypnosis meditation thing that's supposed to like prime your brain to do something. But every single image in that app is AI generated and everything is very consistent. It's the same aesthetic, it's the same color palette and, perfect looking people and all these things. Do I personally care? Not really, just because of the nature of this app. But when we're talking about telling stories, you can have 3 different photographers take photos of the very same thing, and they're going to look completely different because every single one of those photographers has a point of view. And it's also fascinating to me that the experience that they have, the eye for things, the stories that they're telling, right, are unique to them. And that is why we are hiring them specifically. Yep. I don't think AI will be able to replicate that, especially since the best photos, and this is more about like a photojournalism, is capturing the emotion. And that's hard to do, right? And you have to have that emotional sensitivity. Yeah. I mean, you have to be a human to see that, to capture it.
Yeah, being a human, I think, without sounding very theoretical, is not going to go out of style. Like the fact that I, as a long-term creative, have an aesthetic and a viewpoint in my mind doesn't mean that's the only solution or the right solution in different instances. So when you do hire professionals for things, whether it's strategy, logo design, photography, it's because they have a very special skill set. I'm not a great photographer. Mm-hmm. I'll go out with someone else. I'll go out with somebody that they just have a really good eye for composition and lighting, and we'll be standing in the same spot. I'll take some photos, they'll take some photos, and theirs will blow me away. Yep. Like just blow me away. There is something really tangible about the inherent knowledge and understanding of a professional versus make me a picture of a car. Mm-hmm. That's fine, but am I capturing the same things that this other person would be just because of the way they see the world? And even to your point earlier about being from Europe and living in the States, that's a totally different viewpoint. Every person has their own perspective, and we're never going to share the same perspective. So that perspective is what makes things unique, is what makes things great, makes things interesting that I wouldn't have thought of a particular solution or way of doing things that you may just because of your, experience and your perspective. So if we just go to the Midjourney and say, hey, I want this, and even the way that we describe it is probably going to be from our perspective or our knowledge of photography styles. The way that you would describe something will totally generate a different result, whether it's purely just creative direction with an artist, whether you're typing in a prompt into AI. So it's, again, AI is a tool that's changing the way that we work, but I think it's never, air quotes, going to replace us as creatives. It's just how we do things is going to drastically change going forward.
Yes. Yes. Well, but okay, so it's interesting because the humanity and the imperfection, right? But I also want to say that I keep hearing when you say something like this is not the right solution.
Only solution.
Right, because it's not the only solution, and especially in creative work, we know that. Yeah. But going back to perfectionism, so the stuff that's generated by AI usually tends to be perfect, right? And sometimes I'm actually...
Except for hands. Can't do hands. Sorry.
With hand.
Yeah. It doesn't do hands well.
Well, then I take back what I wanted to say.
I'm sorry. I totally ruined it. Yeah.
No, it's just that I was going to say that the imperfection is like, it's such a human thing,
Yeah.
and it's very difficult to replicate it.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it relatable. But, you know,
Yeah. It just doesn't do hands well. I mean, I don't know why, but to your point about the perfection part, it's generally providing you with human figure that is an ideal human figure, generally beautiful type features, whatever that may mean to you or, the individuals. But in my mind, the perfect way to create, man, this is going to be a really opinionated statement. The perfect way to create like a photography kind of thing is to use Midjourney to conceptualize what you want. Like, oh, what if we shot in the middle of the desert and we had this car on this billboard, and you can kind of explore concepts. And then once you have a really clear direction of what you're doing, maybe it's even like using it to do mood boards or storyboards for like a commercial. And at that point, you can actually go and create these things with a much more direct way. And that's a very opinionated statement and maybe not how some people would want to work. But the truth of the matter is it's just, this is the world we live in now. And to avoid using AI, boy, that would be a professional faux pas, in my opinion, because at some point, if you don't use AI, are you going to be able to even compete?
Yeah, how are you actually going to move forward? And you have to. There's no choice. Yeah, and it's interesting because it's almost as if the ones that are going to move forward and survive are the ones that are the most adaptable, right? And that is the one quality that we have to develop, and we have to keep developing in these times. Our parents or our grandparents, which is hilarious when you think about it, they had one job, literally one job throughout all their lives, right? And then they got pension and they were done. One job. So they were experts at what they were doing because they never really had to learn anything else. Yeah. And unfortunately, that's not the case for us.
Yeah. There was a thing online that I saw. It was like, stop having AI paint pictures and write symphonies. Have it do my dishes and mow my lawn so I can paint pictures and write symphonies.
That's exactly.
And I really do appreciate that aspect of it, to like, if we're trying to lead better lives, not just be more profitable or get rid of 20% of our staff because now this AI agent can do that. There's implications about what AI allows for the business owner. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that I really appreciate AI is that now I have the ability, and other people as well, to generate ideas that I may have that I was stuck on before, specifically in technology, websites, coding aspect. I've built products by hand that have taken me a really, really long time to do because I'm just not good at certain aspects that flow. But now with AI, because of my technical knowledge, because of my understanding of strategy and branding and design, I can now move so much faster to get just even an idea out. Say, I had this idea for a product or a business or a website, a tool. And now I can build it in an hour and throw it out there and validate it. Back to the perfectionism, procrastination discussion. I can move much, much, much faster now. And then once that idea is validated or once it's reached a certain point, then I can take my knowledge, slow down, still use AI to help me with it, but I can move light years faster than I was able to a few years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's funny because I'm thinking, what if now with this whole shift, what is generated by AI will be for the masses, right? That's the mass product. And oftentimes not that great. But the stuff that's going to be created by humans is going to be like art, but in the sense of something that's extremely valuable. You know what I mean? I don't know. That's a theory.
Yeah.
To think that AI will be just so popular that it will be just the baseline. And then everything else that's actually created by human is much more sophisticated, better solution that people are willing to pay for.
Yeah.
That's my dream.
There's some truth to that, but I also think that the ability for anybody to create things now is changing the perception of what is valuable. Just the fact that I can go online and I want this image. Okay, now why would I hire or why would I bring somebody else in to do that? And it just back to me is like, well, is it the right image? Are you even asking the right questions? Do you understand brand strategy and audience and market perception enough to even know what to ask AI to give you? I'm sure that there's a lot of people out there listening, or even some fellow colleagues of mine that would say, yeah, you just AI generate and prompt it and then ask it this and then tell you to ask the questions what it needs to know. And some of that's true. It comes back to the things, well, I don't know what I don't know. And just because AI gives me an answer doesn't mean I'm an expert on that topic now. I mean, I got one answer, like, cool, like that sounds okay. I guess let's do that. Yeah, it's interesting. I do think your point about mass market adoption, let's say in terms of software, if a business needed some type of software, it was very, very expensive to create. It was a custom software solution, hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not more, to create this thing. Or you had to buy an off-the-shelf solution, and maybe it kind of didn't work for you.
Yeah.
You had to customize it, and that was expensive. But with the ability for what AI is doing now, that businesses and even small businesses are going to create these really specialized, highly custom, specific to them tools, because they have the ability to do that now. We have a very special business and we do one thing, and I need it to schedule this on Tuesdays only, and they can just create that and do it for themselves. There's so much to it, but it's also a little bit scary for some of the situations. What does that mean for these individuals?
Yeah, absolutely. But like we talked, I think the bottom line is a lot of the production mindless work is going to go away. And also, yes, everyone can use Canva, right? For example, when they was also a part of the revolution as far as design is concerned, but you still have to be a good designer. Believe me when I say I have seen a lot of things created in Canva that look like this.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's, you know what I mean? You can have all the best tools. You need to understand how to use them. But then when you were talking about the custom solutions for software, so my husband works in architecture, and when he talks about all these different types of software, they don't talk to each other.
Yeah.
Or for example, how they put their RFPs together and the information that they're getting from subcontractors and engineers. Oh my God. It's right? Please come up with something that will make your life easier. Yeah. And this is easy for me to say. I don't know exactly how that works, obviously, but
sure.
You keep thinking there should be a better way.
Yeah.
So if AI is something that can help us with that, why not? You know what I mean? It really it saves you a lot of time and effort, and you can put it somewhere else. Especially since so much of what they do is so structured. And right, it has to be to code and all these things. But
yeah, there's very rigid requirements on things. From an architectural standpoint, I like doing home remodels, and I love architecture, and it's a big passion of mine, but I'm not great at it. Mm-hmm. I worked with an architect on a little bit of a remodel for my last home, and this is what I'm thinking, and I had these pictures in my head, and he came up with something I totally would never even have considered. Mm-hmm. Because he knows the human aspect is it shouldn't go away. An ideal world, ideal state. AI gets to the point where those mundane, efficiency, process-minded tasks are much, much more efficient or easier, don't take up our time, so that way we can focus on the quality of the output and the new ideas about how to implement something, or exploring these things in a much faster way that we may not have been able to do before. We're so early in this journey, and I think it's exciting, and I think specifically for designers, you can't avoid it. It's not going away. You can not love it, but you need to figure out a way that you are knowledgeable and you can incorporate it in your workflow. That way you're not just going to get left behind, or put your flag in the ground and say, I'm never doing AI. It's just, in my opinion, it's not a good idea. I don't want you to not have work. So please
sure.
keep doing that. From the business side, adopt it. Find ways to make your team more efficient, to make you more efficient, not to say, how can I get rid of Carl and replace him with AI? Yeah, poor Carl. How can you make Carl better? How can Carl be more valuable to the team? How can you put him on more important projects and then have AI do these things? It's going to make good people better. Mm-hmm. The people that adopt it and become experts at it are going to be really sought after. And it's not that they're going to be, you're a designer. It's just, I'm a designer that has all these superpowers.
I'm thinking, because what you said was really interesting and important, because you said, a Carl. For Carl, you could say. But then at the same time, now Carl has the ability to get more creative. Now he can have the time and the bandwidth to be taught different ways of thinking. What I'm saying is, when you think about how many people are stuck doing mundane tasks like an assembly line, and how much creativity or problem solving or innovation they have inside of them, but we would never know. So that's also fascinating to me. Maybe that's what is going to happen. One thing I wanted to say about illustrators, though, and I do feel really bad for illustrators, but people who use AI to generate illustrations, the only reason why they would hire an illustrator is because they can do it themselves. And is that really a reason to hire an illustrator? Shouldn't it be specifically about their style and their point of view? That's the ongoing battle. Art is historically has been undervalued and unappreciated. And that's just the way it's always been, because people think it's a commodity. People don't think that it's something that's necessary, that's solving a problem. the vast majority of people. And that's sad because it's completely not true.
Yes.
But the thing about it is that maybe we have to focus, or maybe illustrators and artists need to focus on getting to the right market, which I'm assuming is very small, but also people who are willing to pay.
But that's no different than a year ago. I mean, I think you're right. I don't think you're wrong on what you're saying. Of course I'm right. You're not wrong on what you're saying, but it doesn't, just because AI is here they're not going to change tomorrow, because now it's probably going to be even harder to sell that story. Because people are like, oh, I can just create this picture on AI.
But that's what I'm saying, that like all these people who back in the day would hire an illustrator because they need illustration work now can do it themselves, so they will. So what I'm saying is that for illustrators that, still produce custom work, they will have to pivot and they will have to find different clients.
They obviously want to find clients that want their work, or to be able to find markets that want to pay for their services. But I think illustration is a unique thing because it's not photography. Everybody has a camera in their phone. Everybody can just go take a photo, whether it's a good photo or not. With the introduction of AI, it makes it easier for them to move around that illustrator and say, hey, I like this style. Please make me these things in this style. I don't love that, because I do think that that's essentially stealing their intellectual property and their knowledge and their aesthetic. And, so that has some more copyrighty infringement in my mind as a, professional creative. But I don't have a solution to get around that. People are always going to steal what they don't have to buy, not that people are all crooks, but like, even like music and like, Napster and downloading MP3s, and people always want to try to get something that they're not necessarily paying for. So AI does make it more accessible to get a result that you think is right. I don't know the solution for that aspect in terms of the creative market, other than, let's say for an illustrator, I mean, we know plenty, and maybe they hate this idea, but they can use AI to further accelerate their production. So let's say they draw, I won't say anything specific, but let's say they draw an illustration for a product, a hand. Let's say they draw a hand. Yeah, because AI can't do it. And man, you know what? If you just become a hand photographer, you're going to make a lot of money.
There you go.
But they could draw an illustration in their style. This is representative of me. And then they could use AI to do other things in their style because they're producing it. I don't have a problem with that, because they're using it as a tool to further their ability and their knowledge. And then they can move faster. They could sell their product to more people. They could create more products. They could do more stuff. So it's less about the big bad boogeyman AI. It's, okay, well, how do I use this as a tool to accelerate myself and my understanding and my ability? And illustrators may hate that idea. I don't.
I was just thinking, if I was an illustrator, I would hate that idea, because I would be like, okay, great. Well, then I understand this is my style, but I'm inputting this and I'm getting a thing that's ready to go, which means that the artistic part of it is just completely taken out of it. But this is the thing. I want it to be personal. Yeah. I want to be creating this. I want there to be some sort of an emotion in this. But again, illustration is tricky. I have so much love for illustration and so much respect, because it's a whole nother skill set. I've always wanted to be an illustrator, but that never happened. But I have great appreciation for it. But it is kind of on the crossroads of design and art. But that's also why it's tricky, right? Yeah. And back in the day, there were companies that hired illustrators full-time, especially companies that produced magazines, for example, publications in general. Yeah. So there was a lot of conceptual work. Now, I haven't really heard about a company that hired an illustrator full-time instead of like just hiring a freelancer for a particular thing.
Yeah, I mean, we don't do a lot of illustrative type work in some of the projects that we're working on, but times change. Like AI didn't change that. That's probably been like that for years at this point. But even from like a production standpoint, let's say you create an original piece of art and then you need to add it to like a t-shirt or a beer can or a poster, but there's all these little variances you need to do. You can then use AI to accelerate your production of that final piece and then create new art and then do the same thing again. It's not going away. Mm-hmm. We have to adapt or die? That's probably apt, at least in this case. To your point about the production of it, early in my career, I hate is probably the right word, templates and icon sets and UI kits, because I felt like it took all the actual strategy and understanding out of a design. And I still somewhat feel that. We'll have prospects come in and say, hey, we want to use this WordPress template. And we're like, we don't want that. Like, we build custom solutions, strategic value. We don't do off-the-shelf solutions, because it's almost harder to implement this thing that we didn't create, or that's this catch-all solution for all these different things, than it is just to make it original. Obviously, there's templates everywhere. I mean, there's whole industries that are just catered towards templates and that kind of thing. So it's like you said, it's adapting. As designers, as business owners, we need to leverage to better our abilities, and we'll just see what happens next. Who knows?
Okay, cool.
That's it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, we could talk about this for forever.
Yeah, and we didn't touch on a million things about it. There's only so much we can cover.
Do part 2.
Yeah, there's lots of tools that we could go into, and we come into practical ways to use it. But generally, if you haven't played with it yet, get in there, check it out, see the things it can do, figure out how it can make you better at your job, how it could further your progress, and how it could take away some of the more nuancy, mundane tasks that you can then focus on your strategic, creative, strategic creative work.
Thanks for tuning in. Remember, your brand story is yours to define.
Follow us at Co-Branded for more tips and strategies. Stay curious, stay creative, and we'll catch you next time.